Hi there, my superfluous seeds of sunshine. Welcome back. And why is it now that the market's flipped, buyers are happy, and the dealers are screwed? Just look around on the local car lots. I've been scoping out GMs. You've got Chevys, trucks, every which shape and size, SUVs, pickup trucks, 3/4 tons, 1 tons, half tons, you name it. The lots are overflowing, they're bubbling over, and you can get any color, make, model, style, and engine configuration. There's way more inventory than they can choke a horse with. As well as Ford, they're wrapping up. They've got lots of extra inventory. And we also can't forget about Ram, Jeep, Stellantis in general. They can't sell their Wranglers. They're slashing prices. And a lot of the Rams as well, they're offering such big incentives, or they're really trying to put the lean on selling these trucks because they're not selling. Even with the fact that they were slowly bumping up prices again for 2025, they quickly reverted and realized, customers aren't having it. So they've had to make some concessions. They're throwing up big incentives, lower interest rates in-house, as well as chop dollars off the bottom line of a lot of these vehicles. A lot of these car manufacturers just can't sell a vehicle. Why is that? Well, would you believe it? We're at the highest point in the last 3 years in terms of overall inventory that a lot of these manufacturers are carrying. We know that a lot of them like to be hovering around that 30-day to 45-day inventory. But now the industry averages around 76 days of inventory, and that all means floor plan. Floor plan costs are the credit that they have to pay to keep the vehicles on the lot. They don't like to pay anymore. It's like you owning a vehicle. Every month you pay for a vehicle, it's a liability. It goes against any fundamentals we've ever learned about smart money use. But it's even worse with these mega lots. They scale up and try to fill their lots with mega vehicles, tons of trucks, cars, SUVs. But in doing so, they have this massive floor plan. And this floor plan is the cost of doing business, essentially. Every month that vehicle sits on, there is another set of payments that they have to pay against that vehicle. And that hurts their bottom line. So they don't want that vehicle sitting there for more than 30 days or 60 days. And while some of them have a bit of grace period in there of 30 days or even 45 days, the fact remains, we know a lot of the manufacturers like Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, they're over their heads, and they're actually seeing vehicles that are sitting on the lot for more than 150 days. That's right, we're talking even 5 months for that matter. They've pumped up the inventory. People slowed the buying because of high interest rates, cost of living. I just need food to eat. Forget about a car, that can wait. And so this is what's been going on. And so also, now what we're starting to see is the market slowly flipping. We have all this extra inventory and the dealers are getting excited. Excited but upset at the same time because they're not selling the volumes that they need. They're still trying to sell some of their old junky 2021s. I've seen a few 22s out there, and there's lots of 23s that they're really trying to incentivize. You know, you heard about Nissan and the Rogue or the Ragu, and I had mentioned that their previous videos, that they're even offering an extra push from the factory to the dealer level to get their salespeople to push, and they get an extra $1,000 incentive. There's all kinds of motivation for the sellers, the manufacturers, the OEMs, the dealers to push the products, but there's also incentives for you as the buyer to buy these vehicles because they're not selling as many as they'd like to. Even Ford slashed their numbers in half with the Lightning. We know they had to do that because they weren't selling. And as well, on top of that, they have had to offer mega incentives for vehicles like the Mustang Mach-E as well as the Lightning. Now, they have scaled up on the hybrids like the Mavericks because they know those are selling, but a lot of these vehicle brands are struggling with sales, trying to come up with creative ways to sell their vehicles. And now they're even trying to get people in the door, people that were hosed 2 years ago that were in negative equity situations that are making payments on a vehicle that they paid over sticker for and fatten it up with extras. And now they want to trade it in because they're sort of done with it. It's got 40,000 miles. The warranty's running out and it's time to trade it in, but they got negative equity. So now these dealers are getting creative and they're even throwing on these upside down deals. Of course, these special sales events to get people in the door. They're trying to hammer you every which way from Sunday. So the fact remains is incentives are rising. Prices are slightly creeping down or stabilizing, definitely on the new markets because you're getting better interest rates now. Even then maybe buying a late model used vehicle, it's probably better time to buy that new vehicle over a slightly used one. Unless you're going to buy one of those $15,000 specials, because that's really the sweet spot, the $10,000 to $15,000 range, where people have enough money to put together, scratch together a few pennies to be able to buy that vehicle. But otherwise, if you're buying brand new, there are incentives. Lowering interest rates, of course, prices off, and that's a sign that the market's turning and the dealers are getting hungry and buyers are going to get happy with that. In February, incentives made up about 5.9% of the total deals, which has crept up 0.2% from January and 3.1% about a year ago. So clearly there's a real strong push to incentivize the sales of a lot of these vehicles. And because of these extra incentives, we're actually seeing a bit of a decline in the overall average transaction price, which is about 5.4% lower than it was about a year ago. We're also seeing some of the interest rates average down from about 10.15% down to about 9.73% per transaction in this last month. So clearly signs that, banks are getting involved, but more importantly, the dealers are pushing and squeezing to get better deals for the customer just to get them into a new vehicle. And as I was saying, buying a slightly used vehicle, the average interest rate was about 14.59%. So clearly you can see the differential might cover the difference in value buying a brand new versus, maybe a year old with 20,000 miles or 10,000 miles on it. You might actually be further ahead by buying a new vehicle right now because of the better interest rates that you're probably going to experience. And since we've seen used car prices start creeping up from back in 2021, mid-year approximately, we've seen the prices of those used vehicles continually rise to the point where they peaked. And now they're on the decline. So there's actually opportunities to get yourself a great deal on a used vehicle too. Even with the interest rates being a little higher, your sweet spot still is in that $10,000 to $15,000 range. So just knowing that the average transaction price is starting to come down and the expectation for those higher prices by sellers is starting to wane. People aren't holding as strong. People know that the market is softer. People know that they can't ask top dollar anymore, and they're actually having to give in and maybe negotiate with buyers now rather than standing strong and firm, don't need to sell it. But, that's the famous cop-out too. I don't really need to sell it, but I'm just testing the market. That's the biggest joke this side of the Rocky Mountains. So beware when you hear that one. But basically, either it's for sale or it's not. The average used car price was about $25,151 in February, down about $175. So it's a very slow decline, but it is dropping. But what is actually inspiring is the average car dealership has about 44 days worth of used vehicle inventory, which is inspiring to know because it's up almost 10% over the year before, which just means more selection, probably start seeing better cars show up again instead of those washed out, curb rashed vehicles that we were seeing for the last 2 years. And on top of it, they're more likely to negotiate. As they have more inventory, there's likely going to be a lot better availability for trying to negotiate. But of course, with that said, we were seeing buyers last month, 300,000 vehicles were sold that were priced over $35,000. So that would likely imply that very late model vehicles, slightly used, lightly used, and those are the vehicles that we're selling in vast majority. However, there were in fact about 280,000 vehicles sold last month in the price range between $15,000 and $20,000. Clearly that's a strong market, and I think as time goes on, we're probably going to see more of those $15,000 to $20,000 price or those vehicles, more of those transactions, less in the above 35K, and we're probably going to start to see increases in brand new vehicle sales again. Just with all the incentives, it's almost inevitable it's going to happen. So the real question is, are you going to take advantage of some of these deals? And when's the right time? Well, first of all, it's got to work for you personally. It's always difficult to be upside down or have negative equity, so I would always prefer to pay out, cash out what you have in negative equity, clear that out before you even negotiate on the new vehicle, get that off the books because you're going to likely somehow lose out in the end if you roll that into another vehicle. But I would consistently watch for more deals. If I was buying a new vehicle and wanted a new vehicle, I'd probably wait for a few months yet. Again, this is old news, but we're hearing it, and all the so-called experts, the reserves, the banks of Canada, US, are all claiming that they're looking at the interest rates and whether they're going to drop them soon or not. So if they do take a step drop, that will be an opportunity to maybe capitalize as well on lower interest rates. So that's going to be a great mark number. As well as if you're not in that market, maybe you just want something used, there is a growing inventory on the used car market. So keep an eye on that. And when you're buying a used car, don't go for that junk. Don't buy those vehicles that are curb rashed, have no history to them. They don't originate from there. Check the car proof, make sure there's no accident damage. They've got a clear title. Sometimes you can even get title washes in certain states, so be careful of that. And of course, just make sure it checks out, it runs well, get a pre-purchase inspection done, and you should be good. But at the end of the day, you've got to sharpen your prices. Remember, the dealers are losing their marbles. They're getting crazy because they just can't sell as many vehicles as they're hoping to. Their lots are filling up. And sadly enough, they're on the losing end of the stick this go around. Now, realize, of course, that's their game. They never really lose. The customer always kind of loses, but at least if you can come out in a better place today than if you even negotiated on that same vehicle a year and a half ago, that's win. That's dollars in your pocket. So definitely keep an eye out for those incentives because I'm likely to see a lot more, definitely after tax time. Certainly rounding out the year, we're probably going to see a lot better offers too from more manufacturers than we have already. And with all of that said, be sure to check out right there, Jeep Ram Chrysler. There's a crisis. Yeah, did you hear? 400 new layoffs on top of the thousands that they laid off last year means definitely signifies problem is looming. Hope to see each and every one of you on the next one. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.